Hi everybody, it's Cathy from Huckleberry Herbs and Art, and as I said in my last video, I would be working on some bridal bags. I have two. One is an altered canvas bag, and I'll show you the bridal bag that was made from complete scratch afterwards. This is my first altered canvas bag, and I had a great time doing it, but I did sew much of it by hand, and that turned out to be quite the chore. I was trying to avoid using glue wherever I could, and I'm not sure that I will do that again because it really did take me an enormous amount of time. Okay, so the first thing that I did was to cover the bag in this pretty veil type material. I'm taking them slowly, and I did that on both sides of the bag, and it's a light veil type netting which goes throughout. And then I put the daisy trim, which I've been using a lot, all along the edge, and that's on both sides, including the back. And then along the top I used Chinese braid, which I will not be doing again on an altered bag, at least not the ones that I intend to sell and aren't very special, let's put it that way, because for those of you who have never worked with Chinese braid, it is difficult to work with. The minute you cut the end, it begins to unravel itself, so it needs to be sealed and glued from top to bottom. And you know, if you ever wondered why the lampshades that have Chinese braid along the edges of the frame have that little lump, it's because they have to fold over a piece and glue it very well, or the thing will just unravel. But you know, the effect is lovely. Then I put two appliques, one right here on the top area where let's see if I can get in there a little bit for you. I also included one of my little blings that I've been making, and I'm not sure I can get, there you go, that has my Sportsky crystal that I love in it, so I made those little bling pieces, and I put one of those on, and then I used this other lovely applique which actually has a heart shape to it, and that's in the center, and I just love that one. That is beautiful and ornate. And then I used, as I really love the dangle, this dangle trim, and again that went from the front all the way around. I put it on the backing as well, and just love that dangle on the bottom of purses and pocketbooks. And I would say that this would be a great tote for a bride. You know, it's nice to have your bridal bag that you can place on the reception table and carry just a few very small things that you don't want to be without for the day. But, you know, throwing in an extra pair of shoes or a change of clothes for, you know, well after, carrying that into the limo or the car that's taking you to the wedding, you know, in a suitcase or something, not really great. So I thought that this would be nice for a bride to take in the car with her and she would have something pretty that goes with her dress and yet could carry those things that wouldn't fit in her little bridal bag. And then I made a flower. Let's see if I can get in there a little bit. And it has the flower, fabric flower stamen center in it. And there is an organza flower on the outside of that. And I put a satin flower underneath that. And there's a doily. And I just love this. I bought this like 30 years ago. This polyester stiff trim. It's great for the backing. It's so crisp and clean and white, and yet the netting allows you to see through, and it's pretty wide, so you can use it as the backing or the bottom of the flower. And I wish I could find more of it. It's I had bought 3 rolls all those years ago, and they had just sat there doing nothing until recently when I've decided to start crafting again. And I wish I could find more of it. And then I put, coming down, some pearls. I put a little more of that dangle piece. I had some scraps from the way I cut it off to place it on the bottom of the bag. So I put some more of the dangle trim underneath the flower, and a little bit of pearl and some lace, and just a nice white satin ribbon, which I sealed with a lighter at the end. And I really like this. So as I've said, I'm trying to make these to put them into my Etsy shop. And what I've decided is I will not do them the exact same way that I did this one. For example, the Chinese braid is too hard to deal with. The daisy trim, which goes all along the edge here, on the other side, and on the backing. It's very expensive. It takes a long time. That was hand sewn. I will probably use a little more glue, but I think if I'm going to sell these because it took me days to put this thing together, I'm going to need to be a little more practical. So what I'm thinking is that I might use the satin ribbon to seal the edges so that there is no edge, because I don't mind it, but you know, a bride might. And I will still use the dangle trim, and I will put the daisies up at the top where I had the Chinese braid, and of course this applique in that one, and maybe some bling and a lovely flower. And I think they will be less costly for a bride because it is a tote bag, and I do want the bride to be happy with what she carries. It's a very special day. I want it to be a special item, but I don't want it to cost somebody a lot of money. And there's even though this looks fairly sparse, there's still a lot of material in it, and it took a very long time to put together by hand like that. So I will be using more of the satin ribbon to close the ends, the sides off, and basically it'll look pretty much the same, but it's going to be less time consuming and less costly in materials, therefore hopefully less costly for the bride. So now I'll take you down to see my actual bridal bag. And so this is the one that I made from scratch. You know, created my own templates and sewed the entire thing. And it is made of a gorgeous jacquard. Let me see if I can get that in if you see the jacquard satin, which I just love, but oh my goodness, can you pay a lot of money for that as well. So I really had to shop around. I think I got this from Online Fabrics, or Fabrics Online? Online Fabrics. And it was a decent price. And it's such beautiful material. I just love satin to begin with, but this jacquard with the beautiful rose in the pattern, just gorgeous. And you can see the bottom. There's where I made the template for a circle. I put a lining on this, and so in between the lining and the jacquard on the bottom there is some felt to give it a little cushion in case you placed your camera in there or something and you placed it on the table. You don't want to hear a clunk, right? So a little padding for a precious item that you wouldn't want to bounce off the table. And then this very pretty bridal applique with the sparkling sequins and the pearls in the shape of a flower. And I also have put the softest of velvet ribbon for the ties and on each of the ties so that it hangs over your sleeve. A lovely little dangling cordal piece of trim, and it's ruffled up on the inside, and as I said, I have tissue paper in here. Tassel, that's the word I was looking for. I did not use the jacquard all the way through. I put a very soft, well, not extremely soft, but a nice little plain white cottony lining, and then when I sewed the lining together, I put a piece of the jacquard 2 or 3 inches on the inside so that that's what you would see when the bag is open, and that's what your hands would touch, and that's what it would look like on the table. But if you got a little makeup or something on it, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So there is my little bridal bag, and I will have this on Etsy. I have 2 or 3 more templates already to go. I've already cut out the pieces, and so I hope to sew together a few more of those. And I will eventually have on Etsy which I've already started putting that netting on the canvas bags. I'll also have my canvas bridal tote bags on Etsy. It won't look exactly like this one. I figured I would take this one around and be able to show people and use it on a special occasion myself. And in the meantime, get my bridal bags in my shop. And I had a good time doing this. Every time I sew, I always think of my grandmother, who was definitely an avid seamstress, and I miss her terribly and enjoy sewing and thinking about her, and how when I was a little girl I would go to visit her and I would be so excited just to take home a box of her scraps. She was always giving me her scrap materials because she had so much of it. She sewed my mother's clothes all growing up, and she sewed for the church, and she sewed, my mother was a dancer, the costumes, and when I was a little girl I had some clothes that she sewed me, and I have so few things left. It's wonderful. I actually have her button box, and I'm thinking of doing a few special projects with some of her vintage buttons. And my grandmother was born in 1903, and that was when you made your own everything. So I learned a lot from her. If nothing else, perseverance. Just keep doing it until you get the job done, even if you don't know how to do something, because I do see that a lot of people appear to not like sewing as much as they could, and I hope I inspire people to do some more sewing, because I'm so scared that it will become a lost art. It's not really usually taught in schools anymore, and so many people could make things like this for themselves. And I think the trick is to just dig in and not give up until you have completed your project. And it may not look great the first time. First time I made one of my daughter's Halloween costumes, it did not look so good on the inside, but on the outside, well, she looked wonderful. And I made it myself, and it was special, and you know, now I adore the pictures that I have of her in it. And well, I hope other people think of doing some sewing. In the meantime, you can visit me at huckleberryherbs.com if you're into gardening. I just put up some of my spring pictures because I'm starting to get some summer harvest. And I also have my Etsy shop, which is Huckleberry Herbs as well, so I'll leave a link to that. And I thank you so much, those of you that have subscribed and have been leaving comments for me and answering my comments on your channels. I appreciate it very much. So don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be back soon. I want to make some headpieces too, and I think that might be the next thing I venture out on, are a few bridal headpieces. So until then, I'll be watching all of you. Well, God bless everyone.